Around 1350 BC, one man declared that thousands of years of Egyptian religion were a lie. Pharaoh Akhetaten banned every god but one, and for that crime, Egypt sentenced him to something worse than death: total erasure from history. Welcome to History Snapshots. This is the story of the pharaoh who tried to remake reality itself. He was born Amenhotep IV, son of Amenhotep III, inheriting the throne of the most powerful empire on earth. The 18th dynasty ruled from Thebes, where the god Amen reigned supreme alongside hundreds of other deities: Ra, Osiris, Isis, Horus, each with their own priests, temples, and treasuries. Egypt's religious economy was vast. The priesthood of Amun alone controlled nearly a third of Egypt's arable land and commanded wealth that rivaled the pharaoh himself. Into this world of divine bureaucracy stepped a young king who would do the unthinkable. Within years of his coronation, Amenhotep IV would abandon his birth name, close the temples, and proclaim that only one god existed: the Aten, the sun disk. It was, as far as we know, the earliest recorded attempt at monotheism, and Egypt would never forgive him for it. The transformation began quietly. In his second or third regnal year, Amenhotep IV ordered construction of a new temple complex at Karnak, not for Amun, but for the Aten. The priests watched nervously as the young pharaoh elevated a minor solar deity into something unprecedented. The Aten wasn't depicted in human or animal form like other gods. It was simply the sun disk itself, its rays ending in tiny hands offering the Ankh symbol of life directly to the royal family. No intermediaries, no priesthood required. By his 5th year, the break was complete. Amenhotep IV changed his name to Akhetaten, he who is beneficial to the Aten, and announced he would build an entirely new capital city. He chose a desolate stretch of desert 200 miles north of Thebes, a virgin site untouched by any previous cult. He called it Akhetaten, horizon of the Aten. Thousands of workers carved boundary stelae into the surrounding cliffs, marking the sacred precinct. Within these borders, Akhetaten declared only the Aten would be worshipped. Then came the edict that turned revolution into persecution. The old gods were banned, temples were closed, priests were dispossessed, and crucially, Akhetaten ordered the name and image of Amun chiseled from monuments throughout Egypt. Akhetaten rose from the sand with startling speed. Palaces, temples, administrative buildings, workshops, and residential quarters materialized in less than a decade. The great temple to the Aten stretched nearly 800 meters open to the sky. No dark inner sanctum where mysteries were hidden. Everything was exposed to the sun's rays. Akhetaten ruled from this purpose-built utopia alongside his chief wife, Nefertiti, whose beauty would become legendary. Together, they presided over a court that produced some of Egypt's most distinctive art: elongated faces, protruding bellies, intimate domestic scenes of the royal family. It was radically different from the rigid formality of traditional Egyptian art. But outside the capital, Egypt seethed. The old priesthoods had lost everything. Common people couldn't approach the Aten directly, only through Akhetaten himself, making the pharaoh the sole conduit to the divine. What happens when you eliminate the infrastructure that gave millions of people access to the sacred? Meanwhile, Egypt's foreign correspondence, the Amarna letters discovered millennia later, revealed that vassal states were begging for military support. Akhetaten, consumed by his religious vision, largely ignored them. The empire began to fray at its edges while the pharaoh composed hymns to his god. Akhetaten died around 1336 BC after 17 years on the throne. The exact circumstances remain murky. No tomb has been definitively identified, no mummy confirmed. What we know is that his revolution died with him, and died quickly. His successor was a boy, possibly his son, originally named Tutankhaten, living image of the Aten. Within 2 years, the child pharaoh's name was changed to Tutankhamun, living image of Amun. The message was clear: the old gods had returned. Tutankhamun abandoned Akhetaten and restored the court to Thebes. Temples were reopened, priests were reinstated. The Amun cult, humiliated and impoverished for nearly 2 decades, reclaimed its power with interest. When Tutankhamun died young, around age 19, power passed to his advisor I, then to the general Horemheb. And Horemheb began the systematic work of revenge. He ordered Akhenaten's name removed from every monument, every inscription, every king list. Later pharaohs referred to him only as the enemy, or the criminal of Akhetaten. Akhetaten itself was abandoned, its buildings dismantled for stone, its population dispersed. Within a generation, sand reclaimed the city. The heretic pharaoh had been erased. The erasure was devastatingly effective. For over 3 millennia, Akhenaten existed only as a gap in the historical record, a missing name in the king lists, a reign that officially never happened. His city vanished beneath the desert, his monuments were repurposed or destroyed. Even his successor Tutankhamun, whose own reign was brief and unremarkable, was nearly forgotten until Howard Carter's discovery in 1922 made him the most famous pharaoh of all. The irony is sharp. Tutankhamun is remembered precisely because he abandoned everything Akhenaten stood for. It wasn't until the 19th century that European archaeologists mapping the Nile stumbled upon the ruins of Akhetaten, now called Amarna. Boundary stelae still carved into the cliffs revealed the city's ancient name. Excavations uncovered the Amarna letters, diplomatic correspondence that proved a pharaoh had ruled from this place. Slowly, painstakingly, Egyptologists reconstructed the story of the heretic king. But even in rediscovery, Akhenaten remained controversial. Was he a visionary monotheist? A political reformer trying to break the priesthood's power? A religious fanatic? Or simply a pharaoh who pushed too hard, too fast against forces he couldn't control? Akhenaten's fate teaches us something precise about the mechanics of institutional power. He commanded absolute authority on paper, divine kingship, unquestioned obedience. But he failed to understand that authority is not the same as infrastructure. Egypt's religious system wasn't just belief, it was economy, social structure, identity, and access to the divine for millions of people. When Akhenaten dismantled it, he didn't just offend the gods, he dispossessed a bureaucratic class, severed the population from their spiritual practices, and removed the scaffolding that held Egyptian society together. The lesson isn't that reform is impossible. It's that institutions have immune systems and they activate most lethally after the revolutionary dies. Akhenaten's successors didn't just reverse his policies, they erased him from existence, a punishment reserved for those who threaten the foundational myths a culture uses to understand itself. You see this pattern repeat wherever someone tries to replace an entire system rather than transform it from within. The revolution succeeds briefly, then the old order returns and makes the revolutionary vanish. In your workplace, your government, your own attempts at change. Watch for the moment when you're no longer reforming the system but declaring war on it. That's when the system starts preparing your erasure. Akhenaten learned what every revolutionary eventually learns. You can command the present, but the past and future belong to those who control the story. And in Egypt, the priests controlled the story.